Alright, so now we are on to our power switch. These are the ones that Pseudomod has recommended. So these power switches, they're a bit goofy. They're not like the Game Boy Power, the power switch. Sorry, it's kind of goofy. So on the original Game Boy, it has a cover over this on both sides here, and that makes it so that when you hot glue, it kind of makes things a little bit easier because you can encase all of it. So I'll show you tips and tricks on how to make sure that you don't glue inside here, and then I'll also show you how to make sure how this switch works and the way that you need it to go, plus trimming down the switch itself, since it does not fit inside the actual switch here. So with it being not too big for it, we'll trim that down and go forth. So just to test everything out so we know what leads are what. So on the power supply, I've already got this wired up. So this is the end result of the one that we're going to be using on the Raspberry Pi 3, but I don't have it completed for the Game Boy Zero. So I'll show you where to wire that up and where to go. So on the power strip, or the Adafruit 1000C, when it's enabled, when we've got a solid connection, it shuts the power supply off. So we're just going to test the connections here and see which ones are on, which ones are off, and figure out which ones to wire. So I'm going to do the top two, and it looks like they are not connected. And then the top two, that didn't work. Looks like the bottom two are connected, and that's going to work for us. If we go to the bottom other two, they are not connected. So looks like we're going to be using the bottom two, because the way that we are going to be gluing in the switch, we're going to have this case facing downward. So those are the two that we need, and we'll verify on here if these are still connected by connecting the two bottom ones. So by connecting the two bottom, it does not make a connection anymore. So we'll do these two. We have a connection. And since the top ones don't matter, they don't connect. So it definitely looks like that we're going to be using the bottom left and the middle. So when you're doing this, always make sure which ones are which, because every switch can be different and can cause issues. I know because I have gone through 3 of these guys trying to figure that out. So that's when I gave up and decided to test everything out once again to make sure everything was good. So now that we've got that squared away, okay, pull that away. We will need to trim the height of these. We don't need them that long. They're just ridiculously long. So when we cut these, make sure that these tabs are in place. They are pointed down as much as possible, because when you cut these, the casing kind of gets a little weird. It becomes a little soft. So just make sure that they're pushed all the way down. So we'll go ahead and trim these posts, because we don't need any of these posts. make sure that the switch still slides back and forth pretty easily and the case is not coming apart. So once we have that, what I like to do is I like to trim this guy first, because this is the trickiest. If you went through and cut everything and desoldered or soldered the wires on and then you get to this and it doesn't work, then you got to start all over, because this is not the best plastic material that kind of makes you happy inside. So it's kind of cheap. So we're just going to trim little by little until we get there. I like to go a little on each side, clean up as we go along here. All right. Let's see. Come on. There we go. All right. So I know that inside here it's going to work. Not sure if that'll be picked up here on the camera, but it fits directly inside there, but we still need to trim the height. So I'm just going to cut a little off the top. And make sure that it fits inside and it can actuate. Just need a little bit more on top. So just making sure that the switch will work for everything that we need. Looks like I've got some previous glue on here still. Okay, so now that we have the correct distance, we will verify by placing the switch inside, and then we'll kind of switch it in one place. So we will go side to side and kind of make sure that this guy will line up for what we need. And it looks like it will. So we at least have this measured out properly. And then we'll wire in the wires here. So remember, it's going to be all the way to the bottom ones, the bottom two. So I'm going to go ahead and trim all the others because we don't necessarily need them. All right. And we don't need them to be so tall, if you remember. Because if you leave them at this height and you put it in there, see how it kind of sticks out so much? We kind of don't want that. So go ahead and trim this guy here down to height. So we're leaving right about not even a quarter of an inch. I like to be keeping them at least somewhat level in between. So that's it for this one, and then for the next one we'll be wiring it up, tinning these guys, and then hot gluing.